Hello, hello. It is May 10th, 2025, and I have returned from yet another adventure into the chess rating climb. This day's venture is at the Marshall Chess Club in New York, the under 2000 morning action. And waking up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday is not the move, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I am going to be going to this under 2000 morning action much more frequently, just because the skill level of the people there are much higher than at Chess Max, where I have previously gone to. Also, there's just more space, so it's just better. But yeah, so we'll get into the games, and up first, I have the black pieces against Jonathan. I don't know how to say the last name when there's an H in front of it. Sie? My apologies for not pronouncing that correctly, probably. But at any rate, he's my round one opponent, rated 1525. And for the record, just to remind the watchers here, my current rating before this tournament was 1204. Now, I don't think I'm actually at 1200. I think I am much stronger than that, but I just have not played more than like 20-something games. It's weird with the USCF because they say I've played like 20-something games when I've only played about 20, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18-ish. So yeah, I don't know what the hell that's about. But at any rate, I get the black pieces. He starts e4. I decide to play my main repertoire, c6, d4, d5. And he goes for a classical Caro-Kann, knight c3. Now, if you remember, or if you watched my last recap, I faced this line against Anthony, the 1900 rated player, and against him I played knight takes. Against Anthony I played knight f6 because I wanted to go into a Tartakower, but after that game I was like, let me just play main line and then just go from there and not have to worry about a ruined pawn structure. I know in the two knights you have to kind of play into this weird Tartakower position with the doubled F pawns, but in the classical, after DE, knight E, you can play bishop F5. This is the main line in the classical. Knight G3, attacking the bishop. Bishop G6. Obviously, you don't really want to trade. Well, I mean, your bishop's hanging. So bishop G6, not really a better move. Knight F3, which is not the move I was expecting. I think mainline theory goes h4, h6, h5, bishop h7. And if they insert knight f3, you play knight d7. But then bishop d3 takes, queen takes. And you can go like e6 or knight f6. This is like the main line that I'm familiar with. But he goes knight f3 right away, so I just go knight d7. And now he plays bishop d3 right away. So again, he's not including h4, h5, which you usually do in this line, but maybe he thinks that the tempo to play h4, h5 is not worth the tempo that black spends to like go back here and then take. So I don't know. But at any rate, I am happy to trade light squared bishops because the pawn structure after e6 will mostly be on light squares, which, if you're a Caro-Kann player, if you're a French player, you might know that you tend to get these positions where your pawns are on light squares and you want to get rid of your light squared bishop. At any rate, bishop f4, knight f6, c3. So this is a very typical Caro structure where you have this like slant with a2, b2, c3, d4, and then these castling pawns, and then the castling pawns, but you have e6 and c6, And black's main strategic idea here is to break with c5 or e5 and basically get a minority attack on the queen side. Now, white obviously has the majority, so he might be able to push some pawns and try to create a pass pawn and try to win that way. And it's a little harder for black because you're castled here. So it's a little harder to push the 4 pawns majority on the king side. But first we got to develop, so bishop e7, castle, castle, queen c2, guarding the b2 pawn because my next move was going to be queen b6. Knight e5 is interesting. It doesn't really threaten anything, but it does get a knight into my position. I don't have to take him, right, because he just plants his bishop there or plants a pawn there, and then I got to go back, and this pawn is already defended adequately. So I was just like, all right, you can take me, but I'm just going to keep developing and try to play for c5. Rook a c8, knight takes d7, knight takes, and then he goes knight e4. So it's not so clear what white was trying to accomplish here, at least for me, because this knight isn't really going anywhere important. Like if he goes to c5, I can just take. And I mean, there's just not really any other squares. So yeah, I thought knight e4 was a interesting move, to say the least. But I was like, all right, let me just go knight f6 back. I want to keep the d file open just so I can play like rook f8 later, maybe. But then he takes. I take back with the bishop, and yeah, my dark squared bishop is a little blunted on this diagonal, but I can still play c5, and there's not really a problem there. So I'm like, okay, fine. Bishop d6. Again, another peculiar move. I was like, is there a tactic somewhere here with like bishop c7? Like, no, that's guarded. You know, like, oh, is this plan to go bishop c5? Maybe. So I just played rook f8. I wanted to play this move anyway, and he kind of helped me do it. So I'm like, okay, sure. Bishop c5, attacking my queen, and then I played queen c7, which is a tiny little trap. There's a famous bishop endgame, which I can't remember who it was. I think it was like Fischer and Spassky, where Fischer took the a pawn here, or maybe it was like an h pawn or something, and then got his bishop trapped with like b6. So what I was like, I was giving him this a7 pawn, but if he takes it, then I just play b6, and his bishop is stuck. Right? Obviously, if you take here, I take back. You could probably play queen b3, but then, well, no, you can't play queen b3 because I take the bishop. Queen a4, but then rook a8, and you're not really saving this bishop. So, yeah, can't really take the a pawn. So he played f4, which when I saw the move, I was like, oh yeah, people like pushing the f pawn against this like kind of the structure with a pawn on e6, even if it's like connected all the way to d5. So I was like, okay, but if you play f5, I can just take, and if rook takes, I'm not really too concerned about that. You're not really threatening anything with taking the bishop on f6 yet, so I thought, okay, it's fine, everything's fine. So f4, I continue with b6, bishop a3, and here I should note throughout all of the games, I'm always down on time by like anywhere from 3 to like 6 minutes, but we'll see how that goes. But just know I'm probably down like 3 to 7 minutes at any point in the middle game. So I went with c5 right away. Now, I did consider bishop e7 briefly, but then I saw takes, and I wasn't really sure who's better here, if anyone. So I ended up just playing c5 right away, which after I played, I'm like, I probably should have played bishop e7 first, because what's going to happen is dc, bc. Now I have 2 split pawns, and these are 2 weaknesses that white can try to poke at later in the game. So something like queen a4 might be kind of annoying. So yeah, small mistake by me. I should have probably played bishop e7 to keep the pawns together, and figure out this like heavy piece endgame. He plays f5 to continue. I take, like I said before, I wasn't concerned about rook takes. So I was like, okay, fine. And from here, I just felt like I wanted to trade queens and try to get a rook to d2, right? I wanted to get my rooks active. I mean, I have open files I could use too, but I would really like to double my rooks on the 7th and really like restrict white's position. So to prepare that, I thought, okay, well, if I want to get my rook to the 2nd rank, I need to trade queens first. So I played rook queen d7. But I failed to realize in this position that black can just take this pawn here. Right, the rook on f5 actually defends the bishop now, which I completely overlooked. So that was a mistake on my part. So I lose a pawn. But I was like, okay, it's just one pawn, right? Like, yes, losing pawns not good, right? Losing any material is not good. But I figured if we go into a rook endgame, which this is pretty likely to go into, I feel like I'm okay. Rook endgames tend to be drawn. There's a lot of ways to like draw a rook endgame, even if you're down a pawn. So I was like, okay, it's like obviously it's not good, but there's still drawing chances. So I was like, all right, I'm still in it. It's fine. But first, I wanted to solve the problem of this pawn that's kind of stuck on a dark square. So I was like, okay, a6. I actually considered a5, a4, but I didn't want to put my pawn way up in white's territory and probably lose it later. So I was like, okay, a6. White continues with rook a f1. Makes sense, doubling on the f file. You can start setting up tactics with like taking here, taking on f6 and trying to like, pin the pawn to my king. I decided to go for queen d2, and I wanted him to queen trade. After I played this move and I thought for a little bit, I'm like, oh, he's not gonna queen trade. So okay, so where is he going? I'm like, oh, he has queen e4. I'm like, oh. So it's like, okay, queen e4. All right, that's a nice move. I wasn't really sure how to continue here, so I just played rook e8 just to poke the queen and see what he does. And then he goes queen g4, and I'm like, all right, that's pretty logical. Obviously, he wants to take my bishop, and I can't take back because the queen pins the pawn to my king, like I kind of mentioned before. And as I was looking for a move, I was like, man, I really wish I could play like queen e3 and check the king and try to get like a fork going, but the bishop's in the way. And obviously, I can't go queen d4 because that just hangs a queen in two ways, right? And I'm like, oh, can I like sack here instead to like somehow get a fork going? I'm like, no, he just takes back with the bishop or the queen or the pawn. So I'm like, okay, well, can I get rid of the bishop? And then I was like, well, rook takes c5 gets rid of the bishop. And then I looked at it some more. I'm like, oh, wait, that's interesting. All right, because rook takes c5. Well, see if you can calculate rook c5 here. Rook takes c5. I'll give you a moment to pause. But what I calculated was rook takes c5 does work, right? So I saw two lines. If you take back, most obviously, then I have queen e3, and I mean, what move do you have, right? Rook f2 doesn't really do anything. Yeah, so you just basically have to play king h1, and then I take, and I am up a bishop. And I remember reviewing this game at Brooklyn Game Night. Afterwards, I'm like, and I saw this, I put the position on the board. I'm like, oh shit, does he have rook takes f6? I was like, oh my god, he might have rook takes f6. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh wait, no you don't. No you don't. And it's mate. So I didn't see this far in the game. I saw this position. I was like, okay, I'm up a bishop. I don't remember if I actually saw rook takes f6 as a potential counterattack, but anyway. But against rook c5, you can try to counterattack with rook takes f6 instead. So I was calculating this line. I'm like, oh, I can't take back because the queen pins. So I thought, okay, is there a way I can block this this pin while attacking the queen? And I was like, yes. I saw rook g5. So now he has to move his queen, and you can't just move it anywhere, which I didn't see in my calculation, right? I just saw, okay, your queen goes somewhere and I'm going to take. That's all I calculated. And I realized during my analysis at game night, when I was at game night, I was like, oh, wow, you actually like can't really move your queen too far. Like if you go even something as simple as queen f4, it's mate. It's mate on g2. I was like, oh, that's crazy, right? And again, if you can't try to trade queens because I take its mate. It's like, wow, this move is a lot stronger than I thought it was. So I was like, okay, queen f3, and then I take. If you take here, I can play rook g3, but I can also just mate you again. So I'm like, okay, this works, right? This works. Yeah, okay, it works. So rook takes c5, and then he realized that he blundered the bishop and decided to play rook 5 f2. I respond with queen e3, just pinning the rook to the king for now. Just that this is a little less danger, or a little less in danger. h3, rook c e5, just kind of doubling on the e file. I don't really know what I'm trying to do right now, but I'm just improving my position. King h2, rook 5 e6, right? Because now that the king's out of the way, he can try to take here. So I defend. And honestly, you could maybe do something like this. No, you can. Yes, you can. Maybe this works. I didn't actually analyze the games yet with the computer, so I don't actually know, but he ended up playing rook f3 to try to chase my queen away. I went with queen b6, just totally getting out of there and keeping an eye on this diagonal. I can very easily just like come here and try to give a check to do something. He goes for rook g3, obviously piling down on the g file. He can now take on f6. Yes, he can take on f6 because if rook takes, then it's mate. So I thought for a little bit, and I thought I found a kind of a clever move. See if you can find what I found as I... walk away for a few seconds. The move I found, which I thought was clever, it wasn't the best move, I realized. But the move I played was rook e1, which is really funny. So there's still no mate. If you try to take the bishop, I mate you. And so he was like, all right, I'll just take. So he takes, I take back, and again, I'm still threatening mate in 1. He goes rook f3 to get some breathing room, but doesn't quite work. He's also threatening rook f6 again, and I played bishop e5. And the only line I really calculated was, well, actually, no, that's not true. I calculated rook g3, but I was just going to take. And I'm like, I'm still up a rook. I can just play like h3, and there's no back rank. I calculated, so he played rook f4, which I didn't actually see at all, but same difference. And then I saw if you played here, I thought I had, I think I saw, I don't know if I saw this correctly, here, there, because you can't go here because of the queen. And then here, here, here. Why couldn't I do this right away? I can do this right away. Oh. Never mind, I could do it right away. So g3 will just be mate. Yeah. So he can't do that, so he played rook f4. I was like, okay, I'll just take. Now I'm up clean rook. And I was like, okay, don't get back rank mated. But also, like, this queen g1 idea is, like, really tempting, and it's forcing. So I was like, okay, so queen g1, king g3, and then I saw, okay, I can be absolutely winning with no way for white to recover. And if you can spot this really small idea, good job. It's not the best idea in the position, according to computers, but practically speaking, like, this just wins. Queen g1 anyway, king g3, queen e3. And then here white resigned because the queen trade is forced. If you don't trade for whatever reason, I will trade with you, and now everything falls. And if you do trade, I mean, you're down a rook for a pawn, so this is just over. So I ended up winning this first round with the Caro-Kann. And overall, I thought I played really well. I felt like he didn't play the opening super theoretically, in the sense that, like, and what I mean is, like, he didn't play the main line, which involves h4 instead of knight f3. But I still knew the ideas quite well, so I was not terribly concerned. So moving on to game 2, I end up with the black pieces again. A little unfortunate, but it is what it is. I am playing against Mingrui Ju? Mingrui? Rated 1677. Let me fix that here. Okay. So, I have the black pieces again, and he also starts with e4. So, again, Caro-Kann, c4, or c6, d4, d5. He plays the advanced, so e5, bishop f5, and then he plays the tall, and I'm like, okay, let's play the tall again. So h5, and in my mind, I'm like, I should play c5. Like, this is just, like, I know what to do in this, right? I've played against the tall 2 times, OTB, I should be ready for it. It's fine. Everything's fine. 92, and I already thought 92 was weird. I didn't know what he was going for, but I knew one of the mistakes that I made in a previous game in this line was that I didn't play e6. So I was like, okay, let me play e6. And then he plays knight g3, attacking my bishop. I don't want to ruin my pawn structure, so I played bishop g6. He plays bishop e2, and here I'm like, okay, well, let me just keep it simple. Let me just play knight e7, and I'll be able to figure it out. I missed that I blundered a pawn. Now, it turns out, I actually did catch this in the engine line. This game I actually looked at with the computer briefly, not very deeply at all. Well, first of all, knight e7 was a mistake, or inaccurate, I guess. I was supposed to play c5. I need to play c5 in this goddamn variation, but for some reason I just never play e5 or c5. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I didn't, but I'm supposed to play c5. The reason is, if you go down this line, for example, it looks like I'm down a pawn, but I can take on d4 and win my pawn back. You can't take this because your knight's hanging. So, supposed to play c5. I did not play c5 like a dummy. So I played knight e7, and then he plays bishop h5. I'm like, okay, well, I'm down a pawn again, but I'll figure it out. So we trade on h5, and then I play queen a5 check. I remember this was an idea somewhere, but I think it was, I think I mixed it up with the lines where you like trade on, you trade light squared bishops on d3, and then you play queen a6 to offer a queen trade. So I think I confused the lines here a little bit. He played c3. I played knight d7. I wanted to castle queenside just because I felt like white was gonna push these pawns. I mean, that's what it feels like the position is asking for. So, he played bishop g5. I long castled. Knight f4. Now I wanted to play f6, but if I play f6 right away, I lose the e6 pawn. I decided to play queen a6 first. I forgot I did this, actually. I played queen a6 just so that black can't castle kingside, which, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like white really is going to do that, so maybe this move was a bit of a waste. But I was like, let me at least cut off that possibility. Maybe it'll be impactful in the future. Maybe. He continues knight d2. I play rook e8, and my knight is pinned. So didn't want to allow that. Queen c2, and then now I played f6. Now you can't take on e6 because you're not hitting my rook anymore. So there's no like danger level there. he continues knight g6. I considered taking here, but I mean, oops, this rook is hanging. You know, he might be able to win the pawn here. And I didn't really want to allow his queen to come into my position like this, so I decided against it, and I played rook g8. He plays knight takes e7, bishop takes, and then bishop f4. So now I kind of have a moment to decide how I want to play with these pawns, right? Since my king's over here, I can kind of push these pawns or do whatever I want, really. So the two ideas were f takes e5 and g5. Those were the two candidate moves in my head, just to try to like gain space, try to open up the rooks here, and get some activity for the pawn that I am still down. So after bishop f4 g5, I looked at take, and then something like here. And I wasn't super convinced with this position. Like, I can play g4, but like, where's this pawn really going? It's kind of a liability now, and I don't really want to give up another pawn just so that my bishop can kind of come out. Granted, it does restrict the knight, but I thought black still has a really nice center. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not so good. I ended up going with f takes e5 because whatever you take with, you're going to end up with a pawn on e5, right? So if you play bishop takes, I play knight takes, pawn takes, and now this pawn is a little awkward. He can play f4, but I have this, and if you go here, then maybe I can even sack or something. But I just thought, okay, this pawn might be a weakness. I can go like here, or I can try to like play c5, d4, and then try to attack the pawn on the side with like, or just e5 right away. Or sorry, d4, Jesus. But yeah, I was just like, all right, this pawn looks a little weak, so I thought maybe it'd be okay. But he takes back with the pawn right away, and then I played g5, so this pawn is adequately defended. So he ends up taking with the pawn, I take back with the bishop, so now my bishop is much more active and kind of eyeing the king, I guess the queen side, where I figured white was going to castle this entire time. It's like, okay, this position looks fine, and if you trade, I can take here, this pawn's weak, so maybe something like g3, I can play here, and I don't know, maybe you'd have to go like this, I can double, and I thought my position was starting to come alive, I can take this pawn. So yeah, I started to think my position looked really good, but he ended up playing bishop g3 instead. So I was like, okay, me put rook on open file. That's kind of like the whole simple positional play, right? Just rook on open file. He plays knight f3, targeting my bishop. I don't want to trade knight for bishop. I want to trade his dark squared bishop for my dark squared bishop, just so it's like a more symmetrical trade. So I played bishop f4. It also attacks the pawn here. And I can't take right away, but I figured if we're going to trade pieces, I want it to be equal. So yeah, he ends up taking on f4. I take back with the rook. So he notices the g2 pawn is hanging and plays rook h2. And now pause the video and see if you can find my next move. So my next move is a really nice move, in my opinion, because I played it. Rook takes f3. Really simple tactic. If you take, I come down with check and win the rook. And then I'll be up a piece. My rook isn't really getting trapped. You need to play like b3, queen b2 to attack it even. And in that time, I can very easily just zip back to g1 and just get out. So he ends up castling after losing the knight, which is fine. I just retreat my rook back to f5. And now, I mean, I have two open files on, I guess technically that's the king side. I have two open files on, or two rooks on open files. All right, this queen, even though it's been sitting here this entire time, is doing a great job of eyeing this diagonal here, kind of like around the pawns, so it's not so easy to defend them. I can also take on a2, but I ended up, well, after saving the pawn, he played b3, so he's defending the a2 pawn. And now I'm just like looking for ways to win the pawns and try to like use my open files to try to create something going. The motif, the tactical idea I wanted to carry out in this position for the following next like several moves was something like rook f2, queen a2, and then like a mate kind of idea. So that's what I was like trying to play around in my head. But obviously everything's defended right now. So I was like, okay, well, let me start by winning the pawn. So now I'm up a queen piece and not down a pawn anymore. He continues with queen d2. I wasn't really sure what he wanted to accomplish here. Like, he is doubling here, but it's not really a threat. There's no threat on the d pawn. I mean, maybe an infiltration here, but yeah, it's not really very scary. I continue with knight g4, pressuring the f2 pawn. Also attacking the rook on h2. And you can't really save everything, right? You can save your rook, but then I'll go here. And if I go there, then I go here, and it's like, how are you stopping mate? Right? So he ended up playing queen e1 to defend this pawn. I actually really wanted to take the rook, but I didn't want to allow this. It's also a fork, a three-way fork at that. So I was like, okay, I see the fork. Let me just defend first. I could take the rook later. He could save it, but I'm also going to play rook takes f2 if you save your rook. So he does save his rook with rook h7. Good move, right? Trying to activate the rook and cut my king off. Maybe in an endgame, this will be a nice asset for you to use. But I continued with rook takes f2. So again, like, keep in mind this idea of queen a2, queen b2. He plays a4, stopping the idea. And now I found a nice way to simplify the game quite a bit. Very simply, queen e2. Right, threatening mate. So you kind of have to trade queens here. If you try to block with the rook, I can just take here first. If you block with the queen, I mean, I can just trade, really. I'm still up a piece. So I was like, okay, nothing works, so he has to trade queens. So we do. He plays rook f1, so I see he wants to try to double rooks on the 7th rank, and I decline that idea. I block it with rook f2. He goes rook g1 to defend this pawn. Also, you know, I'm just going to take the rook, so he has to get out of the way. I go e5 immediately. I was down like 7-8 minutes. I had like 3-ish minutes, and he had 11 or so. So I just played this move instantly. I didn't think. In the back of my mind, I was like, I hope I don't get punished for this move, because I know every time I make an instant move, I lose. So I was like, oh god, please, I hope this is fine. It turns out it was fine. He plays rook g7 to attack my knight, but I kind of knew I wanted to move my knight anyway. Like, I can go like knight e3, which I did go. I did go knight e3. And then, like, I don't know, maybe I have like rook c2 check here, and I don't know, maybe there's something going on there. I didn't see anything clear, so I mean, I just started with knight e3 because I just wanted to at least have this idea in mind. Rook h1, but then I saw a move to simplify even further, which was rook f1 check, forcing the trade of rooks. So we trade rooks. And here I stopped notating because I had like just about like exactly 3 minutes left or so. So I was like, okay, I really just need to like win this game, right? I need to win this in my next 3 minutes. So I stopped annotating. So the moves here aren't exactly what was played in the game, but you'll get the idea. So g4, e4, g5, e3. So we're both pushing our passed pawns. He realizes that he needs to stop it with king d1, e2 check, king e1, knight g3. So now I kind of have him in like a little bind where you can't move the king because I'll promote. So at the same time, he has his rook trying to push his pawn, so I just need to be careful there. I remember pushing, and I think these moves are accurate now. I think. Right, attacking the rook, making him move, and here threatening the pawn, but also I'm threatening him to move. Right, so if I play knight g2, he has to move. Or I guess he can go here too, but either way, I promote next move, right? So if he pushes, I go here, promote. You can take this. And I mean, this has to be winning. I'll find something, right? I'll find something like to win this game. So he ends up playing rook f2, abandoning the promotion of his pawn to stop my pawn because I'm like right there at the finish line. So I take his pawn, he takes my pawn, we trade rooks, and now we're in an endgame where I'm up on knight, so I'm like, okay, this should be winning. I mean, at the very worst, like if I somehow just like lose control of my body, like this is still like drawable, right? I mean, I guess he has pawns, so maybe not. So we move our kings a bunch. I remember we traded here on d5. I took back with the king just to keep everything together. And he tried pushing his pawns, but again, I take back with the king. And I remember at this point, this was not the correct position, or this wasn't exactly the position, but I remember taking his last pawn with my knight, just sacrificing it because I still had 2 pawns left over. And I mean, this was eventually winning. We'll just fast forward a whole bunch. I do remember I played a2 to sacrifice this pawn. And now I play b3. The king was on c2, so I'm like definitely going to promote. There's no stalemate, right? Even if you go like here, there's no stalemate because of this. If you go here, it still doesn't work. So yeah, I ended up winning this game in this position. My opponent resigned. And yeah, so now I'm 2 out of 2 with the black pieces in both games. So I was like, yo, this is... I mean, I felt really validated because I was like, yo, like I know I'm good enough. It's just like I have to play these people and beat them to actually like have it in the books, right? If you remember a long time ago when I was at the Marshall, I actually played a guy that was like 1854, and I got a draw against him. So I'll flip through the game here. It was a Dutch. I used to play the Dutch. It was a Dutch. I lost a pawn, and like it turned into a rook end game. And I was actually winning for a moment, but I didn't see what move? I didn't see d5 to win. So the winning line was like d5, something like takes. And now like I'm going to gobble here and promote this pawn. So yeah, but this ended up being a draw, right? Because in the game it was like this. This is a crazy like king walk over here. We both promoted, and then eventually it was a draw. But yeah, like I know I can beat these people, or at least like do decent against them with a draw. It's just like I need to find these people to play, so that's why I'm playing at Marshall now. But anyway, going back to actually covering the games, we're going to go to game number 3. I have the white pieces against, drumroll, Marco Sekic. There's got to be like a little like, not an English C, but like a Serbian like CH kind of sound. Sekic. I'm assuming it's Sekic. I don't know if the SC is still an S sound, but anyway. Marco Sekic, rated 1459. So I was like, okay, maybe this is going to be an easier game, you know? My opponent's not quite as highly rated. I finally get the white pieces, so I felt pretty good going into it. So I played d4. I've been playing this system that turns into a Catalan with d4, knight f3. And if black kind of just plays normal moves, now we get a Catalan, right? just in a different move order. And the reason I do that is, which I think I explained in a previous video, the reason is that I don't want to bother with Queen's Gambit accepted, or I don't know what other nonsense is there. I don't know, maybe like a something, I don't know. But there's a whole bunch of lines, like I guess like some Slav lines maybe you don't actually want to do this or something, but yeah, it's supposed to be easier. It turns it into a system setup. Oop, that's a spoiler. So it's a little easier to learn. So d4, knight of 6, knight of 3, and then he plays c5. So we're going into like a Benko, Benoni kind of situation. And I know this is in my notes, but I can never remember the correct... Well, I won't say correct, but I can never remember the book's recommendation. So this is something I need to study and like really memorize, because like I kind of had a basic idea. I did play a game in my last tournament, but I also felt like my opponent wasn't really playing the position correctly. But I know d5 is the correct move. My opponent responds d6. I know I want to protect my d5 pawn some more, so I played c4. He plays b5, so now we're like, kind of a Benko Benoni situation. And to be honest, I don't really know the ideas very deeply. I just know that black wants me to take here. I can play a6. He can play a6 and then like something like this. Or maybe it's knight takes. But this is the basic idea that black wants to go for. Alternatively, he can try to like roll the pawns forward on the queen side and get play like that. So that's about all I knew. I knew I wanted to push my e-pawn up the board and try to create problems on his pawn structure. So yeah, that's about it. So e3, opening up the bishop to defend the pawn. I can't play e4 because of knight takes. He plays b4, kind of gaining that queenside space that he wants. I continue with bishop e2, developing. He plays g6, and this makes a lot of sense, right? You're kind of like pressuring the queen side with this bishop that doesn't really have a home because of all these pawns on dark squares. Castle, bishop g7. I go with knight bd2, kind of preparing e4 because I can't play knight c3. He castles. I go rook e1. Again, still trying to prepare this. He goes a5, trying to go for this. e4, bishop g4. And here I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do about the bishop. I probably should have just played e5 right away, because, if he takes, I can take back, right? And then this is not a problem. But if he takes here first, I can take back with the knight, and then this is still not a problem. But I played h3, which was totally unnecessary. I really should have just like went with my plan and saw it through to realize that I don't need to play h3. He ends up taking. I take back with the bishop. I don't remember why I didn't. Oh, well, if I take back with the knight, I lose the pawn. So I thought, I was like, okay, I could take back with the bishop. I actually thought about playing g takes, but this felt wrong. And I couldn't remember. I don't know why, but it felt wrong. Yeah, but it did cross my mind. But I played bishop takes, knight bd7, bishop g4. This was probably not the move. I should have probably tried to continue with e5. Well, you can't play e5 right away. I can't play e5 right away, so I was like, what I was thinking was like I wanted to free up this square for the knight so that I can try to push e5. Then he plays knight e5, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't push e5 anymore. I can't take the knight. So I thought, okay, how can I dislodge the knight? I was like, all right, f4. Let's go. Like, get out. But I missed how bad this move was, because with the knight on d2, like, there's actually a lot of weak squares around my position. I guess mainly these two. Well, no, just d3. Just d3 is super weak, so he plays knight d3, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine. Rook f1, get out of the way, right? Fine. He trades on g4, and I was like, okay, well, I have this like very interesting pawn majority, or not majority, but I have this like interesting pawn structure here. I can definitely try to go for like f5, e5, and just like try to like push down the board. What I failed to realize with this trade here is that he opens up his bishop. Right, so now his bishop is like super strong, and I don't really have. I mean, I have my bishop here, but it's not so easy to trade that off. He plays knight b2, and if I take here, I mean, is this really doing me any favors? I thought this position would be awful. Like, his bishop is the best piece on the board, right? It's like what I want to accomplish in the Catalan, right? Like, I want a monster bishop pointing this way, so I was like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, I'm not playing that. So I played queen c2, which was actually even worse. He plays knight takes c4. So he's winning a pawn, another pawn, attacking my rook, and I mean, there's also a trade here. So I thought for a while, I'm like, do I want to trade and go down this exchange? But then it's like I'm not even winning the bishop back, and I can't trap it. I'd have to do this. I'm like, this doesn't really look right to me. I don't really have a way to abuse the dark squares besides my queen, which is like way over here, and this position is blocked. So I was like, okay, that doesn't look good. So I was like, okay, well, rook b1 gets out of the way. If he trades here, that's fine. And, you know, so like this, I'm like, okay, sure. I guess I'll go for this. So I played rook b1, and then I missed this fork. And I'm like, oh man, wow, I am just not playing well. Like, I've just missed everything. So I thought, I'm like, all right, where do I want my queen then? After some more thought, I played queen d3. I'm like, all right, whatever. It's fine. He'll take my rook. I'll take back. I decided to take back with the knight. I don't know, just because. I mean, really, I wanted to reroute it. I probably should have taken back with the king, so I can go knight f3 and push e5. But I decided to take back with the knight for some reason. I think I wanted to play f5 as well and try to like break this pawn. I don't remember. But yeah, I played knight takes f1. He plays queen b6, and I saw that he wanted to push c4, discovered attack on my king, hitting my queen. So I was like, okay, let me get in the way of the queen seeing my queen if he pushes c4 and play queen e3, right? So now if he pushes c4, I mean, he hangs his queen. So I was like, okay, great. And then I missed that this is aligned, and oops. Yeah, he played bishop d4, and I just sat there and like, I had a mask on just because I know like some of the younger folk are just like, they're always like sick or like super nasally. I don't know why, but like always there's some kid that's just like shouldn't be there. But anyway, so I had my mask and he couldn't see it, but I was just like, wow. So like I was actually like, wow, I really. It's not like a smile that I'm happy. It's like, yeah, this is a game. Haha. Wow. Okay. Haha. Funny. Dead loss. So I just sat there. I was like, okay, is there any inkling of a hope in this position after something like queen takes, bishop takes? I'm like looking at this and I'm like, well, he still has a discovery idea. I'm like, okay, like bishop b2 doesn't do anything at all. So I was looking at him like, all right, is there there's nothing, right? There's absolutely nothing, right? Right. And I was like, yeah, no, there's nothing. I resigned. So I resigned here. I mean, I'm already down a rook. I'm going to be down another queen with something like this. Well, no, I'm just down a queen for a million pieces. But yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not playing this anymore. I guess I'm just too tired. I must have spent all my energy on the first 2 rounds to play accurately, but yeah, this was a disaster. I mean, credit to my opponent. He went 3 out of 3. We were both 2 points going into round 3. So I was just like, oh, did you go 3 out of 3? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, nice, good job. Thanks. And he said, thanks. I gave him a thumbs up. I'm like, nice. Yeah. You're good. Yeah, so I need to look at this. I might even incorporate this into my own repertoire, or I'll just like play with it a bit and see how it goes. But I remember looking at my book, and in a lot of these Benoni Spanko lines, they actually recommend knight c3, or even I think in the Benko they recommend c3 right away. Because you want to go like bishop g5 and something like this. I don't know. There's some line like this. Obviously, this is something I need to review, but credit to my opponent. He definitely knew the strategy and the position better than I did. I was definitely fumbling around a whole bunch, and I just missed like forks and pins and all that. So overall, I definitely feel validated in the sense that I am capable, right, to play at a 1500 level. Like that's my like baseline goal. I definitely had a lot of doubts previous to this event where it's like, dude, I cannot, like, I'm not playing against players of that level, so I don't really know. My only two experiences playing people of like higher skill level were the one guy I played at Marshall who was 1800. Actually, no, I played against two 1700s, but I lost both of those games as well at Marshall. Like previously, I drew an 1800, so I was like, there's an inkling of hope there. But then I lost against a 1900 at Chessmax. But even in that game, I could have had a good position if I saw it all the way through. But it's like those kind of results aren't really like validating enough. Like getting a draw against an 1800 is kind of nice, but then when you lose to like two 1700 rated players, when you lose to a 1900 rated player, it's like where really is that capability, right? And with these two wins against a 1500 and a high 1600, I'm like, okay, yeah, so I can, like, with the black pieces at that, right? Like I can do this. It's just I have to play a whole bunch more to actually get my number to go up. But yeah, I know like against these, I wouldn't call them sidelines per se, but these aggressive offbeat kind of situations that like it's hard because people, you never know what people are going to play. You can't prep for people at this level. Like unless you've played them before and they only have like the one rigid repertoire, unless you get like some insider information against like these people, like you can only be prepared so much before someone throws a curveball at you. And admittedly, the tall should not be a curveball at me because I've played it 3 times over the board, but yet I can't seem to like play what I should be playing. So there's definitely a mental block there. But yeah, I'm capable. Even without knowing the tall that well, I was still pretty capable in that game. Yeah. So rating update will be in the description. I don't know when they're going to submit it and upload it and when it updates and all that crap, but just keep an eye out on the description. I will update it when my rating updates. So, thanks for watching. Like the video if you like the video.